Great question. Well, the reason I do what I do is because I really get excited in helping clients to discover their why or to move through their stuckness. And what I like to also do is transform that why into their what, which then ignites their powerful motivation and leads them into game-changing results. And it is, I just love it. I mean, if there's anything that keeps me up at night, it's the joy that I experience in working with clients who know that there's something missing in their life and they really want to make a change, and they're ready to step off of the cliff into all the great possibilities that exist for them.
So you're a smart business committed to innovation, to service and to modern marketing, and you're asking, what's next? Wondering how you can become even more innovative. My name is Jürgen Strauss from InnovaBuzz, and this is the InnovaBuzz Podcast, where we share all kinds of tips, advice and interview guests on all things innovation and leadership in modern marketing. Hi innovators, it's great to be back. I hope you've had an awesome week so far. I'm really excited to have on the InnovaBuzz podcast as my guest today, Carol Metz Murray, who's a business empowerment coach helping her clients transform through shifting mindsets and building value alignment. Carol and I had a lot of fun discovering your true why and your values, ensuring that your behaviour is aligned with those true values, and moving outside your comfort zone to help trigger the shift that can transform you. And we had an interesting discussion around whitewater rafting as a metaphor for triggering that shift outside of your comfort zone. But you'll have to listen to the podcast to find out more about that. So without further ado, then let's fly into the hive and get the buzz from Carol Metz Murray. Hi, I'm your host Jürgen Strauss from InnovaBuzz, and I'm really excited to welcome to the InnovaBuzz podcast today from near Vancouver in Canada, Carol Metz Murray, who's a business empowerment coach, helping her clients transform through shifting mindsets and building value alignment. She's also Chief Strategist and Engagement Officer at Shift Happens. So welcome to the podcast, Carol. It's a privilege to have you as a guest.
Well, thank you very much. I'm excited to be here.
You've also written a chapter of the book, Step Into Your Vision, on the subject of listen to your inner voice, and also spoken on My Story Monday. So we might talk a little about that. Now, Joe De Silva, who was on episode 125, introduced me to Carol and suggested we interview her on the podcast. So big hello to Joe.
Hi, Joe, and thank you for introducing me. This is really great.
So before we start talking about all things mindset and shifting mindset, let's find out a little bit more about you as a person. So as a young child, what did you want to do when you grew up?
When I was a little girl, I wanted to be a teacher. I really thought that was my calling, and I recall as a little girl doing a lot of practicing on the animals on the farm, the cows and the dogs, the cats, and you know, I think that's where the phrase came from of "Have you ever herded cats?" Anyway, I truly wanted to be in service to others, and I think that's what was underneath my desire to be a teacher.
Mm-hmm. So did you pursue teaching?
No, I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
My life took on a completely another path, and I would say that in some ways there are teaching opportunities when I am coaching, when I am consulting. There's always that opportunity to bring out the teacher in me, or you know, when I'm facilitating, I'm just not standing in front of a classroom 7 or 8 hours in a day.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did you get into coaching?
That came about as a life transformation of, and I'm laughing now, is shift happens, embrace it. It was a turning point in my life where I had in essence burnt myself out to a crisp and had to rebuild myself. In that process, lost my dream job, and then was also faced with where do I go from here? I had a daughter that I was still raising. So I sat back and looked at skill sets that I had and said, I would really like to serve people in a different way, and stepped into coaching and training as a coach. And I've been doing that ever since.
All right. So tell us a little bit then about what you do and why you do it.
Great question. Well, the reason I do what I do is because I really get excited in helping clients to discover their why, or to move through their stuckness. And what I like to also do is transform that why into their what, which then ignites their powerful motivation and leads them into game-changing results. And it is, I just love it. I mean, if there's anything that keeps me up at night, it's the joy that I experience in working with clients who know that there's something missing in their life and they really want to make a change, and they're ready to step off of the cliff into all the great possibilities that exist for them.
Sounds fascinating. Now, we talked a little bit before about shift, or you explained to us Shift Happens and your company that you're the chief marketer for, I think it is, and what does it say?
I'm the chief empowerment officer.
Chief strategist, yeah.
Yes.
So Shift Happens. So tell us about that company. Is that something that you founded?
Yes, that is my own company, and that company has, it too has embraced the shift that has happened. At one time was mainly a consulting company working with organizations in shifting change. And then I have expanded that company to include not only consulting, but into the coaching realm, and as well, I also do speaking. And I speak on courage as a result of Shift Happens, Embrace It.
That's interesting, yeah. And I saw one of your talks, which was the Monday talk I mentioned earlier. So how big is Shift Happens, the company?
How did that happen?
How big is it? How many people do you have?
Well, actually, at this point, it is me, because I am doing some shifting. I am actually rebranding it and looking at just some different ways to move it forward. So right now, it is me. And I just wanted to let you know that this evening, I'm back at Mo Mondays with another presentation tonight at 7 o'clock.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll have to keep an eye on that one. I'm guessing they'll post that to YouTube as well.
Yes, they will.
All right. So tell us a little bit about the process you go through then. I mean, I like the name Shift Happens, and it kind of conjures up the idea of reframing situations in a way that you can better deal with them, that they serve you. So tell us a little bit about the process that you typically go through?
So the process that I use in Shift Happens is start with a value. I analyze their values and do a value alignment, and then from there we move into having a narrative conversation. And really, it's when I say narrative conversation, it is about story. And moving into story, then really it's about really truly listening and being right there with the client and hearing what the client is talking about or not talking about. And often it's what a client doesn't say is where their answers are. And so I take them through the process of discovering their story or digging deeper into their story, and then finding out from them what what are the benefits that they get from holding on to that story, and then begin to work with them and strategize with them on how they could shift those benefits to arrive at the goal that they have set for themselves. And inevitably, it is so fascinating to watch clients, because clients have all their own answers. They're already there. It's very much like, I can say it's like driving the bus for them, or being in the bus right alongside of them, or being in the boat as they're swimming in the water, and getting to that place of a client saying, well, that's amazing. How come I didn't think about this before? And it's because they weren't quite ready to think about it yet. So that is the process in a nutshell.
Okay, and those transformations must be hugely satisfying, I would imagine.
Oh, they are. They are such a gift. I mean, truly such a gift to see somebody, their facial expressions change, their energy change, and it's like you're seeing a new person, and they themselves often they're in shock, because it's like, wow, like I can have this. This is a possibility. And the answer is yes, it is a possibility.
Now, you talked about finding out their values or getting alignment with their values. So how do you go about eliciting someone's values?
I do that through through a series of questions, and then I also do it with a paper, a written project that I send them home with. And one of the things that also comes out of that project or of them doing this work is I look for the way that each client is creative. And everybody is creative in a different way. And I tease that out of them, and I ask them to use that when they are looking to find their core values. And it's amazing to see what comes back, because I generally do not know which form somebody is going to choose. And I can just say one individual came back to me, and they had created this huge collage. And that was their way. Then they told me kind of the story about the values in the collage. It was fascinating. But for them, it was an incredibly empowering experience, because they'd never done that before, and they didn't realize that their core, one of the issues that they were facing was that one of their very core values was out of alignment.
Yeah.
Or, let me rephrase that. How they were living their life currently was out of alignment with their one of their core values.
Yeah, with the core value, that's right. And it's amazing when you highlight that and And when you realize that, or when people realize that, and address that, that's where the shift really does happen.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like the approach of, harnessing people's creativity. We've used that in a number of exercises, and it is very powerful. And I like the idea of letting people choose the way they do it too.
Well, because everybody is unique and different, and as you know what your creativity is different from mine, and if that's the way that you're going to express yourself, then that's what I want to see.
Now, you talk about the story. So what do you mean by the story that you work on with them?
Everyone has a story, or two or three, or maybe even 10. And so in working with someone in someone's story, so if they have the issue that they want to resolve by coming to me as their empowerment coach, that will have a story around it. And so it's discovering what really is the story, what has the individual created in their own mind to create this story. And it may be, for example, they're wanting to move forward in their career and they're stuck. They don't know why they're not being selected, why they're being passed over for promotions. And so they've created a whole story about that from the perspective of, well, it has to be, that the person doing the interviews doesn't like me, or I don't have enough education, or my education isn't the right kind. And, I really like to move forward, but I have all of these family obligations. And so that's what I mean about story. And they create their own limitations and barriers. And that truly is for them to discover that generally the only person holding them back and the only thing holding them back is themselves.
Yeah.
So it's unraveling that story.
So it's kind of the inner voice that is telling them a story to rationalize the situation that they're in.
Yes, that is exactly it. And that's where the shifting of the inner mindset comes in as well.
So how do you work with somebody on their mindset then? You've talked about understanding their values alignment and getting them to be creative by presenting that, which probably is already a bit of a breakthrough because they, as you suggested, they can see where they might not be living in alignment with the values, and then working through the stories. Where do the goals come into it, or is that what you start with?
I start with generally with what I would refer to as an overall goal. And then as we move through the process of the values alignment and through the narrative conversation, then once the client is beginning to, I'm going to say, is see the shift and feel the shift, then and just before we begin the strategy sessions, we revisit the goals and have a look at that to determine whether in fact what was true at the beginning is still true now. Is that the direction that the client wants to go? Sometimes it is, and sometimes a client will look at all of that and say, no, with what I know now, that's not where I want to go at all. And they will, in essence, embrace the shift that's happened and decide, well, that's not really what I wanted to do with my life. That's not really how I wanted to build my business. But I want to go off in this direction. And when that happens, then we, look at the values, and then we begin to build strategies that will help the client move forward.
Yeah, it's a fascinating process. So you're getting shift in terms of understanding values to start with, and then maybe some behaviours that are identified as not being in alignment with values, and then a shift in how the goals might be perceived in terms of personal priorities as well. So
Yes, yes, definitely. And I would say that it's about 9.5 times out of 10 that works. Mm-hmm.
And so how did you kind of develop this whole process? Did that come out of personal experience, or is it kind of based on other techniques?
I would say that is generally personal experience. That covers my life journey.
Yeah.
In all of the shifting that I've done, the transformations that I've gone through, the values alignment piece. I have studied values alignment and realignment. So there's a little bit of I think it was the idea to do the written work, which I have, that is something that I did when I was studying the values. But the whole thing around bringing in the creativity, that one is mine. And as I'm talking to you, I'm really smiling, because at one point in my life, I didn't think I was creative. Only to discover that we're all creative in very different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a shift that happened for you.
Oh, yes.
So, yeah, you tell an interesting story, and maybe you could kind of tell a piece of that in the My Story Monday video that is online, because I think that highlights the process that you've been describing to us and how you kind of worked on yourself using that.
Yes. Do you want me to embellish that story?
Whatever you like.
Oh, well. And how much time do we have? Well, my story is in a nutshell, and I will go back to, I'll go to the time when shift really began to happen for me. Prior to that, I was, my entrepreneurship started when I was 5 years old. I grew up on a farm, and by 11, my parents were asking me to be in charge of the family farm as they went away for the weekend. It was a mixed farm. So there was a lot of work. From there, moved into being asked to go into an organization to restructure it, and I did not have any training at the time. I was, I was 19 years old, and I went in and did what I needed to do, and in essence, that's where my passion, truly my passion for service above self, blossomed. I then went on to work in local government as a chief administrative officer, and I worked as a general manager in business, and also worked in not-for-profits as an executive director. I had the opportunity to go north, to work in the far north as a city manager some years ago, and I took that. And because I thought it would be a real adventure going into the land of the midnight sun. And it was. It truly was. While I was there, I had the opportunity to work on my Master's of Public Administration through the University of Southeast Alaska. And that meant that I traveled from Dawson City to Whitehorse every second weekend, and sometimes it was every weekend. That's a 1,000-kilometer road trip. And you're doing that in winter and summer. And in the far north, the winters were a little cold,
Yeah.
lots of snow. And when I said to myself, "What are you doing?"
Would have been dark as well most of the time, wouldn't it, in the winter?
Yes, in the wintertime, yes, it was dark. It was dark. And, there were Sunday nights when I was driving back to Dawson City, I would say to myself, "What are you doing? You're the only person on this long, long highway." Anyway, as a result of all of that, because I had this strong push to kind of do, and I had left a very violence-filled marriage before I'd headed up north, I burnt myself out. And in that whole process of going through that and redefining who I was and who I am, that's where the kind of shift process began to emerge. And one of the things that, in that whole process of picking up pieces, I also lost my dream job. When I handed in sent my thesis to the University of Southeast Alaska, I opened up the local paper, and as the universe sometimes provides us with gifts, there was no job advertised. So yes, I had just completed my thesis for my Master's of Public Administration, and I was without a job. As I said before, I had a daughter still raising a daughter. So just in looking, then finding the strength to sit down and look at all the different processes that I was going through, and the shifting, and seeing what I needed to shift on the inside to shift my inner game to get me moving in a different direction. I also discovered that my values were out of alignment. So that's really where the process began to unfold.
And so how did you go about getting back on track, so to speak? Did you basically work through this process, or did the process evolve as you were dealing with the situation?
I would say both. I worked through the process. I had incredible support to work through the process. And what I did in working through the process was, and it's who I am, because I'm also a very curious individual, I did work with a variety of different processes and different modalities to discover what worked for me, what didn't work, what truly resonated and moved me forward. And it was also in this process of personal development and healing, I went to Toastmasters, and that is actually years later where I met Joe. Toastmasters was such a huge gift, because I had been a speaker as a young girl and loved to speak. So this was an opening for me, but it really helped me to rebuild my confidence, my self-esteem, and that helped as well in moving me forward even in the realm of creativity, because if I was going to speak, I needed to be creative in coming up with topics and speeches and thinking on my feet. And so it helped me a lot to move forward. But every one of the processes that I went through, there was a piece that I was able to say, when I looked back at it all, was, I think this could help someone else. And how would it look if I put it together like this? And in essence, it's come together.
That's great. Yeah, Toastmasters is great, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
It certainly does challenge your creativity with the different speech topics that they come up with that you progress through on your journey there. And also they get you up on your feet, thinking on your feet when they do what's called table topics.
Correct. And one of the other huge benefits out of Toastmasters is that you get evaluations from individuals, and so you can have 20 different people give you feedback from 20 different perspectives. You learn a lot about yourself, and that helps you to move forward.
All right. Now, one of the things you mentioned in the process is getting to the heart of people's motivation, really understanding what motivates them. So tell us a little bit how that works, because I wasn't quite sure where that fits in, whether that comes out of the story or whether that's at the values stage.
Getting to the heart of the matter, really, it starts to be uncovered at the value stage. However, it takes a while for different individuals to really uncover it and own it. And so when I talk about getting to the heart of the matter, it's really and truly, from my perspective, any work we do, whether we're an engineer or whether we're a speaker, or we could be a technician, if it's operating from the heart, which is accompanied by your head and the thinking and analyzing, and also by your intuition. But it's really is, from my perspective, as we move through the coaching process, the client's heart actually does open up. And how that happens is by the client accepting who they are and doing their own shifting of their mindset to accept what is possible and to truly listen to their intuition. And we all have intuition.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? And I think, getting really clear on your why is so important, because that sustains you when things are not going as well as perhaps you'd like. And also it's really propels you towards those goals.
That's right. That is so true. And without having clarity on that, many people go through life just living. They're not truly living their life by design. Actually, life is living them.
It's happening to them. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, it's happening to them.
Yeah. All right. Now, you also talked about translating the why to the what. So do you help people come up then with strategies to achieve goals?
Yes, I do. I do. And in helping to define strategies for individuals, with individuals who are not clear about what their goals are, it's first and foremost, taking a step back to have a look at where their life is at. Now, for example, in working with a client who wants to be promoted, they want to move into a manager's job, or they want to move into an executive job, and that's where their heart is set. However, they've been passed over. Somebody else has gotten the position. So then they sit back and they say, well, what happened? And we have a look at that. But as well, when we're looking at that, we also look at things like, so what do you believe are the risks that are associated with moving into an executive position? How will that impact your life? And as well, sometimes it's depending on what comes out of the session, there will also be a time of looking at, so what's the benefit that you were getting from presenting yourself at an interview where you're now telling me you could have done much better, and you know, in the interview, but here you are. So having them also to look at that, and that whole process really does more shifting because it opens up more exploration of their inner game or their own mindset. And once they have done that, then they will already see that the shifting has created openings for a different sets of goals. Then we will move into strategizing what those goals would be. Where do they want to be? How will that impact a family? You know, what truly is, you know, how will they put their what into action?
Yeah, that's a really neat process. I like that. From the point of view of the stories that people tell themselves, in the example you gave, you know, it could well be that there is a values misalignment there in the goal that the person is going for. And for example, a more senior position that would demand more time away from the family, and family being a real high value, then that could be one reason why the performance at interview wasn't quite as good as perhaps the person is capable of.
That's right. And they haven't, until that point in time, not given it any thought, any consideration. And then the interview doesn't go the way that they, on the surface, they were hoping. Yet when they stand back and have a look at everything, they realize that really wasn't where they wanted to be, or that there was something holding them back, and they realized that because, you know, values were out of alignment, or that they had a doubt about themselves, in essence, they've blown the interview. So now, knowing that and building up their own confidence, they can then decide whether they want to, search out another executive position.
Yeah, that's right. Or whether it's the goal that's actually in misalignment with values. All right. Well, this is fascinating, Carol. I could go on and dig deeper in all of these things, but I respect your time, and I think it's time we moved on to the Buzz, which is our innovation round, and it's designed to help our audience, who are mainly innovators and leaders in their field, with some tips from your experience. So I've got 5 questions that I'm going to ask. Hopefully you'll give us some really insightful answers that will inspire everyone to go away and do something awesome today. So what's the number one thing you think anyone needs to do to be more innovative?
You just mentioned it. is to go and have some fun. Do something that totally cleans your mind. Just get a blank slate and then allow that allows creativity to come in, and ideas that you wouldn't have thought of before surface. So that's the very first thing that a person needs to do.
That's great advice. And I like to go for a bike ride every morning, and often when I'm on my own in particular and I'm not talking to other people, that kind of is the time I get a lot of ideas, and it's very much along those lines that you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what's the best thing you've done to develop new ideas?
Well, mine, the one that comes to mind was me accepting a challenge to go on a 2-week whitewater river rafting adventure. And the prerequisite was that you would never, ever have been in a canoe before.
Okay.
So I took that on, and let me tell you, there wasn't any, during that 2 weeks, the focus was on keeping the canoe upright and not full of water, making it through whitewater rapids, and living with the bears, and coming home and being very okay. But during that period of time, my world was completely different. And this was labeled as a leadership adventure. And when I came home and looked at the work that I was doing, it was amazing from an innovation perspective and even a system perspective. It was standing back and saying, okay, we need to have a look at what we're doing, what systems do we have in place, how can we simplify it, what will give the same customer service but in less time. And for me, what was really outstanding was that the team that I was leading at the time were right on board, and away they went. And I did in essence, I guess, the coaching and the management of the work that they were doing, but they came up with some great ideas and implemented them. So for me, it was, in essence, getting out of my own way and allowing or creating the space for other people around me to come forward with their ideas as well.
So the whitewater rafting adventure, that took you completely out of your comfort zone. So was your team involved in that as well?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I went with what were there? I think there was 14 women, and none of us had canoed. None of us had, yes. And it was an adventure all of its own. And we, in that period of time, we had to develop our team, just given our surroundings, our circumstances. That in itself was, we were put to the task of being innovative in certainly a lot of personal development, but in some cases developing strategies on how we were going to get canoes from one side of the White Rapids to the other. That was quite the experience.
And obviously a metaphor for taking ideas and strategies back into the workplace.
Yes.
All right. What's your favourite tool or system for improving your own productivity and allowing you to be more innovative?
My favorite tool is meditation. and whether certainly meditation at home, but there's I've just learned some tips and tricks to actually do very short meditations when I'm at work and no one even knows that I'm doing them. That helps me to rejuvenate, and it helps me to clear the clutter out of my mind, to bring forward thoughts, or just a word will come flying through my mind. That's it. And and so I'll share one with you, which is I find it fascinating. If things are stressful, if I'm with a group of people and I need to shift, I will start yawning. And it's amazing what that does for me. And during that whole process, I'll clear my mind and there'll be a mini meditation. But what is also really great is 9 times out of 10, other people will also start yawning. And it breaks the kind of the chain of what's been happening, and people come back refreshed, and they have no idea what actually did the refreshing.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a little mini meditation tip for everyone.
Yes.
I'll have to try that out. All right, what's the best way to keep a client on track?
For me, the best way for accountability is being firm but fair. And one of my favorite questions when I meet with a client is, if they have promised to do something and they didn't, I will basically ask them what had them not keeping that promise. And that really seems to work for me. With the clients that I work with, we have a trusting relationship, and clients also know that they can contact me between coaching sessions, and I'm there for them. Generally, I find that if clients know that, and clients are dedicated to moving themselves forward, those things will keep them on track. If sometimes it happens when, it's a client isn't staying on track, then it comes time for a very honest conversation about what's going on for them.
And probably it's exploring again, their why and their values and so on, because there may be some more self-sabotage going on.
That's right, and it could very well be that there's another shift coming.
All right, and what's the number one thing anyone can do to differentiate themselves?
You ask a very, very good question. And because now, one of the things that I find in today's world, where there are so many cookie cutters and people step into them, and I know from my own personal experience, when it comes to differentiating yourself, the biggest thing for me is being authentic. And you're going to say to me, well, how does anybody know? The point of it is, people do know, and it's a matter of, in differentiating yourself, is really walking your walk and talking your talk, and standing in that power, staying with the shift. For me, that is what differentiates me. I'm not glitz and glamour. I am me, and I truly hold that space for my clients. And so I know other people do as well, but that is who I am. And one of the things that I have recently, a process I've gone through as I reframe and rebrand me, is looking at what I want clients to have when they work with me, and what do I want clients to know me for. And in my time of creativity, what came up for me was beyond exceptional. So that's what differentiates me, by giving service that is beyond exceptional.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that, beyond exceptional. Great. All right. Well, thanks for getting us through the buzz then, Carol. So you talked a little bit about rebranding your business. What's the future for you and for your business?
The future at this point is looking at, as I continue to coach and move into more one-on-one coaching, but also looking at doing more leadership coaching, doing it from the perspective of group coaching. And one of my goals on the horizon is to create a retreat center where coaching will be done in a retreat fashion. And that one really excites me, because it provides an opportunity to be outdoors. And
so you're going to take other people whitewater rafting.
That's right. Yep. You've got that one right. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Because that would be a lot of fun and a lot of adventure and a lot of growth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it sounds like fun. I'll have to keep an eye on that, because I've never been whitewater rafting, so I might have to try that out.
Oh, okay.
So what's the number one piece of advice then you'd give to any business owner that wants to be a leader in their field and a leader in innovation?
First and foremost, truly is to have a look at your mindset, and set aside the fear. Have courage to look at who you are and where you want to go, and shift if you have to. And in that whole process, to be innovative is to as I mentioned earlier, is yes, to have fun, but it's beyond that. It's to see the opportunities where others don't see them. And whether that's in something like IT and all the different inventions that are happening so quickly, or in the world of even something like personal development, is be innovative and step forward. Don't hold yourself back. And go for it and truly live that life that you were meant to be. So it's tapping into the innovative streak that's inside you, first and foremost.
Yeah, and like you said at the beginning, everybody is creative in some way or other. So yes. Yeah, I really like that. Look, see the opportunities where others don't, and have courage, and despite the fear, still go ahead and do what you think is going to give you that innovation, like whitewater rafting, which is a great metaphor.
Yes, it is.
All right. Well, thank you, Carol. This has been really great. I've enjoyed this. You've given us a really insightful overview of your process and how kind of working from values and limiting beliefs and stories through to goals and realignment can make shift happen. So where can people reach out and say thank you for what you've shared today?
They can reach out on LinkedIn, and they can find me at linkedin.com//pub/Carol Metz Murray, or they can find me on Twitter at C_Metz, METZ. Facebook, they can find me at Biz Empowerment. And on Skype, I'm Carol.Metz8.
All right, and we'll have links to all of those places in the show notes for the episode so people can directly click through and get in touch. So finally, who would you like me to interview on a future InnovaBuzz podcast and why?
I thought about that earlier today, and I'm going to suggest C.L. Ellis with the Ellis Institute. And the reason that I'm going to suggest C.L. is because she is a goldsmith, but not only is she a goldsmith, she's also a business owner. She's a coach, and she's moving into speaking. And I think her story is fascinating. If you like, I can connect you with her.
Absolutely. I'd love that. Thanks, Carol. And CL, if you listen to this, look out for an invitation from us to the InnovaBuzz podcast, courtesy of Carol Metz Murray. So thanks so much for sharing your time and your insights with us today on the InnovaBuzz podcast, Carol. This has been fascinating. As I said, you've given us a really in-depth outline of how you go about helping clients to make the shift, really, or empowering them to make the shift, or having them empowered to make their own shift. I've really enjoyed it. Hopefully the audience will also enjoy it and learn a lot out of it. So I wish you all the best for the future and for the changes and shifts that are coming up for you, and let's keep in touch.
Well, thank you. Let's keep in touch. And I so appreciate the opportunity to spend some time with you and to reach out to the worldwide community. And hopefully I've inspired somebody to let shift happen and embrace it.
Yeah, I'm sure you have. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you.
That was a comprehensive and educational outline of how our values and the stories we tell ourselves can lead to building barriers for ourselves to achieving our goals, and how we can shift the barriers out of our way. All the ideas and tips that Carol shared with us can be found at innovabiz.co/Carol Metz Murray. That is CarolMetzMurray. All lowercase, all one word, innovabiz.co/Carol Metz Murray. You'll find contact information for getting in touch with Carol there as well. Carol suggested I interview C.L. Ellis of the Ellis Institute on a future InnovaBuzz podcast. So C.L., keep an eye on your inbox for an invitation from us to the InnovaBuzz podcast, courtesy of Carol Metz Murray. Stay connected. Head on over to iTunes or Stitcher or Pocket Casts and subscribe to the InnovaBuzz podcast so you make sure you'll never miss another episode. We'd also love you to leave us a review, because what you think matters. Take some of the ideas you've heard today and apply them in your business. Any thoughts, ideas, suggestions or questions, share them in the comments below the blog post. And remember, if you want to get better marketing results than you ever have, join our fantastic LinkedIn community at the Transformational Marketing Academy. All you have to do is go to innovabiz.co/TMAC. It's free to join. Hope to see you there soon. Until next time, I'm Jürgen Strauss from InnovaBiz. Remember to be awesome and keep innovating.